Peyton Manning's going to be in the Olympics, everybody. Decathlete, long jump, swimming, pole vault. No. Peyton's going to open the whole thing. And I want a Peyton cast on some of the Olympics. That's what I'm hoping for. And swimming, you could have Michael Phelps. You could do all sorts of things. But what do you make of Peyton Manning being at the opening ceremony of the Olympics and helping open it with Mike Tirico and somebody else?
I think it's great. I always felt Peyton Manning was meant for, it's funny, the Michael Strahans, the Shannon Sharps, all these former NFL players on camera. No one was more meant for that than Peyton Manning, honestly. He is the most entertaining. He's the funniest of all of them, quite honestly. And, the funny part is Peyton Manning does it. I've never seen somebody be so skilled on camera, Dave, while also being diplomatic. As you know, Peyton Manning's the most annoyingly diplomatic person on camera, is he not?
Yes, I've been told that when it came to his Saturday Night Live monologue and all that sort of thing, that it was heavily critiqued to make sure he didn't come off looking bad. He cares very much about his image.
Yes. So he's not it's funny because he's got that Shannon Sharp personality where Shannon Sharp doesn't care how he looks. He's just going to go at athletes that he thinks are stupid, honestly. And Peyton Manning's never going to do that. But Peyton Manning is so entertaining with his mannerisms, it still kind of works. And so I think this is smart. I think Peyton Manning would be great covering the Olympics, but I will say this. We just talked about the NCAA. You want to talk about a racket that steals money. How about the Olympics? I mean, those athletes don't get paid anything.
Yeah, Well, they get paid by sponsorship now. They get a little bit of cash. They get paid the same way that the football players we talk about every day do. Better ambassador for the University of Tennessee? Is it Peyton Manning or is it Candace Parker, who we see a lot of this time of year because she does the TNT work?
Well, I know who's hotter, but
it's not Rocky Dennis. Right. That was his nickname. For those that don't know, that was Peyton Manning's nickname among his teammates, Rocky Dennis. And you have to look that up to know it because I'm not going to say it. To see what movie that was in, but Cher was in it. So Cher.
It's still Peyton Manning. It's still Peyton Manning. And I love Candace Parker. I love Candace Parker.
No, it's not.
I love her, but Peyton Manning is. It's still Peyton Manning.
No, it's not. And here's why. Because Tennessee doesn't need any help in football. They're doing just fine. They're on the rise. Tennessee needs help in women's basketball. Candace Parker is definitely the better ambassador for Tennessee right now. Go ahead and vote on our YouTube page. We would love to hear what you think and tell me why in the message board as well. And I'll get right to that. I'll remind you that we're represented by Banks and Jones. And I'll remind you that crazy Caleb thinking it's Peyton instead of Candace is very crazy. Even Peyton Manning, what would you say about that when I compare you and Candace Parker?
That is total bullshit.
Yes. The show represented by Banks and Jones. Banks and Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks and Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks and Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks and Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. So far in the message board, I'm all by myself. Peyton Manning, 88%. Candace Parker, 12%. How much of that do you think our current voting is because the amount of publicity? Because I can't argue, no matter what I do, that Parker gets as much publicity as Manning, because we're talking about a little bit of work on the men's tournament. We're talking about women's basketball versus football. That's not the same. So he's not going to have the same, she's not going to have the same amount of exposure. But as far as an ambassador, I think she is very needed by the Lady Vols. And I think there might be a young lady who says, I really like that Candace Parker, she's actually doing men's games, and I'm gonna look her up. I wonder where she went to Tennessee, and then did you know about that Pat Summitt person? Candace Parker is the better ambassador for Tennessee right now. Not even close, Caleb. Sorry.
Oh, okay, first of all, I mean, Peyton Manning himself can be an ambassador for women's basketball because he was close with Pat Summitt. So, I mean, if he wanted to, if Tennessee needed him to be an ambassador for women's basketball, was like, we need you for this. You don't think he would do it? Also, Candace Parker. Now, yes, Candace Parker is the most attractive person to do this, but she's the best. She's the most talented at commentating too. But she's such a skilled commentator. But I didn't like Tennessee doesn't have a lot of other great women's basketball ambassadors. I mean, Tamika Catchings was a WNBA MVP. Shamika Holtzclaw is a great. I mean, Shamika Holtzclaw is a great story for personal struggles because I'm sure you know about her issues that she's dealt with and how she's talked about it publicly. I mean, I think that's
I don't actually. So share that with me or somebody else.
She struggled with severe depression. Depression. I'm sorry.
Candace Parker did.
No. Shamika Holtzclaw did.
Oh, Shamika Holtzclaw. Okay. No, I did not know that.
Yeah, she struggled with severe depression. I think it kind of stalled her WNBA career because she probably could have been the best WNBA player of all time. And she was in the WNBA for a while, but she just, it was, and she's a very public vocal speaker for that. So there's a lot of things that those people do that really help the program. I agree. Candace is probably the best overall of it because one, a sidetrack, just a real quick question, Dave. Who's the greater Tennessee Lady Vols legend, Candace Parker or Shamika Holtzclaw? Holtzclaw did win 3 titles, but I think Candace Parker was better because she had less help, right?
Yeah, Parker was better. I don't think there's any question about that. And Parker, listen, here's the other thing about Parker is I've heard her on PTI, pardon the interruption. I've heard her, I believe, on the Dan Patrick Show. She does all these different shows to promote her work on TNT and thereby promote herself. And I'm sure she works in the University of Tennessee every time. Peyton Manning is usually only a part of things in which he has control over. So to me, Peyton Manning feels insulated and not approachable if I'm a sports fan. Candace Parker feels like somebody that you could see and you could say, hey, how are you? Now, I will say in person, she is stunningly gorgeous to the point that you can get tongue-tied. I won't go ahead and tell you that firsthand. And I usually don't get tongue-tied around pretty women. But if you get past that, I mean, she's easier to talk to. She's more accessible and relatable, as somebody on the message board put, than Peyton Manning, right?
Yeah, she is. There's another layer to this, though, too. Beyond just what they played, which makes Peyton Manning more valuable. Even within their respective sports, I'm just going to say this about Candace Parker. Candace Parker feels she really developed something about herself playing for Pat Summitt, right? She thinks the Lady Vols made her who she is. And she has a point on that. Do you think Peyton Manning is out there saying, thank God I played for Philip Fulmer. He made me who I am today. I'm sorry. I don't want to throw a shot at Philip Fulmer, but do you really think Peyton Manning is thinking that in his head?
I think he's thinking that about David Cutcliffe, and Philip Fulmer's the guy that hired him.
Okay, so he may be thinking about that about Cutcliffe, and he does show respect to Cutcliffe. He shows more respect to Cutcliffe than he's ever shown to Fulmer. I've noticed that about Peyton through his career.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Who would you show more respect to?
I mean, remember when he had to relearn how to throw when he asked Cutcliffe to come coach him and not Fulmer anywhere around?
Yeah.
And
but
I think Cutcliffe coached Peyton Manning up the passer, but Peyton Manning and his image and how to carry himself and everything, I think Peyton Manning probably thought that more from his family life and things like that. Not that I think Candace Parker's family life was fine, but she attributes her whole, everything about who she is to Pat Summitt. You know, she really attributes it to Pat. So I think that's why she's more grateful to be a Vol than Peyton Manning is. I think Peyton Manning is somebody who probably is like, yeah, I'm grateful I chose Tennessee, but I could have made this work if I went to Ole Miss or Florida or wherever I went. And I think Candace Parker's like, in her mind, she probably is like, I needed Pat Summitt. I needed Tennessee.
Boy, I think the Mannings needed Cutcliffe, and we're just going to see this differently.
I'm saying whether or not they did. I'm saying what's in their minds.
Okay, well, I think
Not have been an NFL player without Cutcliffe because Cutcliffe taught him how to be mobile with flat feet.
I think Peyton and Phillip are pretty tight. And what if Phillip's going to be our Friday guest this fall? Are you going to be nicer to him?
Will he ever be your Friday guest, Dave?
You know, I'm always working. Have I surprised you with some things before?
You have.